Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. Today's show is part 2 of a 2-part interview I did with Jennifer Stein, director of the award-winning documentary Travis, the true story of Travis Walton. The media had a field day with the UFO abduction of Travis Walton. This included so-called skeptics such as Philip Klass, an American journalist who was, as it turns out, a tool of the FBI and other government agencies who used him to influence other journalists to debunk UFO sightings and abductees. Philip Klass even stooped as low as trying to bribe witnesses to Travis's abduction and others to lie about what they told authorities. One of them was the youngest member of Travis Walton's crew. Could you, Jennifer, tell me the specifics of that attempted bribe?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Anyone who has read Travis's book will realize that, and Travis's book is called Fire in the Sky. He spends 1/3 of his book, which is about 700 pages, talking about Philip Klass, because Philip Klass went after these boys in this story for a good 35 years. So the basic story with Philip is he wouldn't accept the fact that this really happened or that all the boys passed lie detector tests. I mean, there was just too much good data with this story, too much verification. And he wanted to debunk the story any way, shape, or form he could. And the youngest member of the crew was really only 17 at the time that the event happened. He sort of lied about his age to get the job. You had to be 18, but he lied and nobody bothered to check. And he had a family. Well, he didn't have children himself, but he had financial responsibilities to help his family. I mean, these guys lived in rural northern Arizona in 1975, and many of them had to work to help support their parents and their homes. So this was the case with Steve Pierce. What happened is Philip Klass went after him time and time and time again for years, for 4, 5, 6 years. He was writing him letters saying he wanted to meet with him, he wanted to speak with him. And the pressure on all these boys was very intense. Even from the local town and the local newspaper, they were accused of all sorts of crazy things, of making this story up, because nobody wanted to believe it. And they're all Mormon. This is a real Mormon town. Everybody knows everybody else. Everybody knows everybody else's family. The pressure was so great, Steve moved away from Snowflake, where he lived, and moved to Texas and got married and had a job, I think, driving a truck. Philip hunted him down, flew to Texas, took him out for dinner, and offered him $10,000 if he was willing to say that this was all a bogus event. In fact, he offered him the bribe several times. I've even heard that one of the local sheriffs that's now deceased carried a Western Union message. His name was Fleck. I don't know if it was Sanford Fleck or something like that, but he actually carried a message, which was a bribe in a Western Union message to Steve when he still lived in Snowflake, offering him money if he would come out and say that this was all a hoax, because that way it would undermine the story. And that's really what Philip wanted to do. But he was never successful in turning the boys against one another. I mean, Steve considered it and went out to dinner with him. And his wife said, "What are you doing? You can't do that. You've told me this was a true story all along. And if it's true, don't take a bribe. That will be terrible." And finally, Steve listened to her. He also called the other members of the crew and told them, and even offered them money. He said, maybe we should split this and just take it. Because, the crew broke apart. They never worked together again another day after this. Their lives were forever ruined. And I think that's something my film really goes into. It shows the personal story that these boys experienced as a result of that.
Even though Travis and the witnesses to the abduction took and passed lie detector tests, it had no effect on debunkers such as Philip Klass. The truth was something Klass could not be bothered with. What I would like to know is how Klass was able to influence others in the media to go along with his deceit.
That's a really $100,000 question, Stan. It really is. We often say, how did he have such influence? When, say, Travis and Mike Rogers were on Larry King Live, he called up the producers of Larry King Live and said, "I have to be on that show. I am the skeptical, scientific person you need to have because I have inside knowledge and inside information, and I've investigated this." So we suspect, in fact, Rich Dolan actually mentions this in the documentary, that Philip Klass had some type of connection, either with the FBI or the CIA. There were groups that would step in on his behalf. Now, he was a writer. He was a journalist for a magazine. I think it was called Space and Sky Aviation Week in Review out of Washington, D.C. It was something like that. I don't have the title right, I confess, but it was something like that. And he would often debunk other UFO cases as well, besides Travis's. Like, he went after the Betty and Barney Hill story and other people at the time who were having UFO encounters as well. He would attack the character of the people because he often couldn't attack the details of the story. But he hated the fact that there were so many of them, 7 witnesses, not just one, and that they all took and passed lie detection tests. It infuriated him. And I think other debunkers are also paid and have picked up in the footstep that Philip Klass started. There's been evidence of that going forward. That's a good question. I can't tell you I know how he could call up the producers and get on shows all the time. He had really never written anything about UFOs until one day he sort of just shows up on the scene and he's like an expert and comes out with a book when he'd never even read any books on UFOs. He was there debunking them. Because of his quick entrance into this field, we suspect, and also because of some of the roles and positions he had, I was able to go in and read his archives, some of which are at the Philadelphia Historical Society. It's called the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, and I used to live in Philadelphia. So I did a couple days of research there with Stanton Friedman, who really gave me a quick introductory course on going and reading archives. And there's like a whole shelf of Klass's correspondence with many people, but we could look and see specifically his correspondence with Mike Rogers, who was one of the crew bosses. And we could also see correspondence he had with other people like Donald Menzel, who we now know was the head of, at that point, the NSA, which was very much under the radar at the time. He also communicated with people like Edward Condon, who was responsible for the Condon Report. And we all know these people were debunking the UFO topic very seriously. Donald Menzel might have very well been part of the original Majestic 12 group that President Eisenhower put together. And this was a group of 12 people that he went to try to figure out what to do about the Roswell crash and the huge media coverage that the UFO topic was getting from 47 to 52. And the Robertson panel and the Robertson report all came out after that. And it's believed, if you read the Robertson report, which any of your listeners could do by Googling it, you can clearly see there was a protocol put in place to debunk the UFO topic any way, shape, or form you could. And Philip Klass had correspondence with many universities all around the United States. He started like astronomical associations to debate the potential of life on other planets and to debunk it. So he was the head of a number of organizations, or he was on committees or on boards of a number of astronomical associations and air and space associations that you wouldn't normally get just as a journalist. So it's clear that someone catapulted him quickly into a place of authority, thinking he would speak accurately on the subject and make people question. Because with debunking, and you probably know this, Dan, with debunking, all you need to do is cast doubt. Once you've casted doubt, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to take a lie detection test or do any kind of huge mathematical formations or have a telescope or be involved in NASA to create doubt. And once you've created doubt in people's minds, you've done the job of debunking. And I think it's good. We need to have skeptics because we need to think deeply and seriously about this subject, and we don't want to be led astray. This is a serious subject. In those days, all you needed to do is cast some doubt, and Philip was very good at doing that.
How did all the media attention surrounding his reported abduction by alien beings affect Travis Walton's life?
He'll openly say it ruined it. Frankly, it ruined it. There were many opportunities that might have come Travis's way, college scholarships, various things like that, job opportunities that just slammed shut on this. And he, I think, had to really develop a strong backbone to face the kind of ridicule that Travis faced most of his life and the other members of the crew. But Travis got more of it than the other crew members because he was the one who went missing. And he was the one that had this onboard the craft experience. So many of the UFO groups at the time, like APRO, I think APRO is an acronym which stood for the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization. Another organization at the time time called Ground Saucer Research, and the Midwestern UFO Organization, which eventually became MUFON, the Mutual UFO Organization. They all went out and interviewed Travis, including even Stanton Friedman, who was very interested in the story, was already writing books about Roswell and wanted to interview them. So many top researchers, even a fabulous man from a university, one of the Montana universities, I'm forgetting the name of it, showed up to interview him. And that was, darn, I'm having a senior moment. I can't remember his name, but a very famous researcher, Leo Springle, came and interviewed Travis as well. So top researchers wrote about Travis, came, showed up, verified to the best of their ability what they believed was the true story. Stanton was involved in making actually a documentary film at that time, which never made it, unfortunately, to theaters or to DVD even, or VHS tape in the early days. It was never really officially produced, although it was edited. It covered Travis's story, Betty and Barney Hill's story, and it also covered the work of another UFO researcher in the Tucson area who was quite famous, and I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but I'll think of it. Starts with a W. So long story short, Travis's life was catapulted into a new direction. There was no way he could avoid the subject. He had to address it, but yet he had to face ridicule and he had to learn how to be articulate under pressure. And so that's what he did. And it changed his life. I think now he realizes how unique and how grateful he is. And he's come to digest the story in a different way than he did when he was 21 years old. This is a terrible thing to happen to a 21-year-old, because a lot of people who have UFO sightings, maybe like you or I might stand, we could choose whether or not we wanted to tell anybody about it. But Travis didn't have a choice, you see. Actually, none of the boys did. But Travis's case was even worse because he was the one who went missing. And as soon as he came back, the police, they wanted their hands on him. The media wanted their hands on him. And he had to develop the strength to come forward. So what was happening is his older brother, Dwayne, was protecting him and like giving false stories like, oh, I took him to a Tucson hospital when really he was in a hospital in Phoenix. His older brother was just trying to say, no, he's not ready to talk to the media. He's had a traumatic experience. What are you expecting from this young kid? And Travis's father was long gone from his life. I think Travis's father left when he was a young child. So he was raised by a single mother. His older brothers were like father figures to him and were protecting him.
How did the abduction of Travis affect the lives of his fellow crew members who were drawn into the frenzy surrounding it because of them being witnesses to what happened?
Similarly, like to Travis's life, it screwed him up. Mike Rogers, who worked with Travis and was the crew boss, Mike actually believed Travis because he saw the whole thing happen. He was the one back there looking for him. I mean, none of the crew members actually saw him being abducted, being drawn up into a craft. Or nobody knows how that took place because nobody was present to see that because they had driven off. But none of the crew doubted Travis. They all pretty much came to the same conclusion. So when Travis came back, and what's also interesting, and I didn't mention to you, but I think is important for your listeners to know, is when Travis called his brother-in-law from the phone booth in Heber when he was returned on the side of the road, Travis realized that he'd been returned, but he thought it was the same night. He had no idea he'd been gone for 5 days. And his brother-in-law said, Travis, feel your face. You've got a 5-day worth of beard growth. We've been panicked. Your mother's practically out of her skull, worried about you. And Travis was thinking it was the same night. And of course it wasn't. All of their lives were really affected. Obviously, we heard earlier how Steve Pierce, the youngest member of the crew, was harassed by Philip Glass for decades. The small town they lived in, everybody knew their story. So they'd go to the grocery store or the hardware store and people would accuse them of being liars and making this up. I mean, people in their own community, even in their own family. It really ruined a lot of their lives. And it created a dynamic and an interpersonal challenge between all these relationships with all these guys, where there was distrust at times and partially and mostly they stood together. Most of the crew members said, no, this happened. They took the lie detection test. They went through it. But people were always looking to get an in, to break apart. If you can divide, you can conquer, right? The old war strategy. So that's what Philip was trying to do. And other people have been manipulative. Even recently, there's been what I would call some debunking activity going on with some of the newer podcasts that are out there, trying to create create dissension and confusion about the facts, or trying to take the fact and say they're really different facts than they are. It confuses people, puts doubt in their mind, and then suddenly it's back in the mainstream that this was all a lie from the beginning, when it really wasn't. It's not been easy for any of the crew, and I have a huge amount of compassion for all of them. As a filmmaker, I interviewed I interviewed all the living crew members, took them all back up to the forest, had them tell their own story from their own mouths. And that's why I think the film is done as well as it has, because it's a really personal story from the personal perspective of all of these crew members, including Travis.
What you have done with your documentary, Jennifer, by having Travis and many of the key people involved in his reported abduction on screen, telling in the first person what happened, is living history recorded for posterity, and will make it difficult for future debunkers to dispute what happened to Travis. So, Jennifer, on behalf of all experiencers and others who believe we are not alone and who have been ridiculed for coming out about their beliefs and experiences, I compliment you on your documentary. You have done the UFO community a great service, and I'm sure it will be seen for generations to come.
I think so.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to buy your documentary, Travis, the true story of Travis Walton, and find out about events you'll be at, how can they do that?
I think the best website to go to is just called TravisWaltonTheMovie.com. So it's just his name and the word themovie.com. And when they get there, they can see that they can buy the film as a DVD still, if they want to. It's also now on Amazon Prime. So if people have Amazon Prime, they can watch it actually for free, or they can watch it on Amazon, pay for it, I think at $2.99 or $3.99 to watch. And we've done it with subtitles. So if people are hard of hearing, they can click on the subtitle option. It's also now available in multiple languages, which is what I had worked on in the 5 years since the film came out. We have it in French, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, I believe it's in Italian, and Japanese. And we're working on a Greek version as well, so people can watch the transcription on the bottom in Greek. It's not spoken in that language, but it's the transcriptions on the bottom. There's also many things on that website. People can look and see about some of the current debunking that was going on. And they can watch some little videos that sort of dispute the current debunking, because people have actually taken parts of the film, illegally copied it, put it up online and things like that, which they're probably not supposed to be doing, but is happening. There are many different ways to learn about the film. And yes, I do speaking engagements and screenings with the film periodically. Conferences ask me to come and do that. Plus, I speak on many other subjects as well, like some ancient sites and things. I'll be speaking at a conference in Laughlin, Nevada in just about 3 weeks from now at the Star Works conference. I'll be speaking on Göbekli Tepe. And I'm also been asked to speak on a cruise. It's a hidden secrets cruise, which is going out of California in April. And that's very fun. So information about that is up on my website, as well as On Wings Productions. That's a personal site for my production company at ONWINGES Productions.com. So they can go there and learn more about me too.
Jennifer Stein, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. It was a pleasure yakking with you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Stan, and to connect. I'm sorry I never, did a face-to-face interview with you when I was in or near Hamilton or Canada, but maybe that will happen in the future.
You never know. Hi, everyone. This is Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. To be sure you're amongst the first to receive new interviews when they're released and to have access to previous ones, subscribe to my free YouTube channel. To do that, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.